And in early AA days, we became quite convinced that the spiritual program was fine, but we could help the Lord out a little with some supplementary diet. So, in the early days, Bill, having a lot of stomach trouble, had stumbled across the fact that he got along much better on sauerkraut and cold tomatoes. And so we thought that inasmuch as Bill had had that experience, that probably everyone else would share the same. But of course we discovered later that most any dietary restriction had very little to do with the acquisition and maintenance of permanent sobriety. We, in our own stories, didn't amount anything to speak of. When we started in on Bill, we had no 12 steps, we had no traditions, we had nothing of that kind. But we were convinced that the answer to our problem was in the good book. And it became somewhat evident, we thought, to some of us older ones that it was contained, the part that we found absolutely essential, to a rather limited section of the good book. In other words, the Sermon on the Mount, 13th chapter of Corinthians, and the book of James. I think we got those ideas pretty firmly implanted in our minds very early. And we had in those days, our membership got to 5 and 7 and 10 and still small. We used to have daily meetings in somebody's house. It was probably providentially arranged that all this happened at a time when everybody was broke, and awfully broke too. It was probably much easier for us to be successful when broke than it would have been to have been successful if we'd had a good checking account apiece. But I know that we were, every one of us, just so painfully broke that, well, it wasn't a pleasant thought. But nothing could be done about it, and everybody else was broke too, and so we didn't take it too much to heart. But I do think that that was providentially arranged. But anyway, we kept on having these meetings and having these discussions and attending the meetings of these good people with whom we had been associated, and did continue to have them with them until, in Akron I'm talking about, of course, until about 40, or maybe early in 41. Might have been January 41, I don't recall the exact date, when we outgrew the residence of this good friend who had allowed us to bang up the plaster and the door jambs, carting chairs up and down the stairs, and he had a very beautiful home. We had outgrown that, and so we stepped out, and in a short time acquired the rental of the auditorium in the King's School, and I'm talking about a group that I attend personally, have been there ever since. We attempt to have a good meeting, and I think we're usually successful. But it wasn't until 39 that the teachings and efforts and studies that had been going on were crystallized in the form of the 12 steps. I didn't write the 12 steps. They had nothing to do with the writing of them. I think probably I had something to do with them indirectly, because after this June 10th episode, Bill came to live at our house and stayed for about 3 months. And there was hardly a night in that 3 months that we didn't sit up till 2 or 3 o'clock discussing these things. And it'd be hard for me to conceive that something wasn't said during those nightly discussions around our kitchen table that influenced the actual writing of the 12 steps. They're much more handy to have in that form, of course. We had the ideas pretty much basically, but not in terse and tangible form. We got them, as I said, as a result of our study and effort of the good book. We must have had them because we have learned from experience that they are very important in maintaining sobriety, and we were maintaining sobriety, therefore we had them, but not in exactly the written form as you know them now. But that was the way that things started off in Akron. And as we grew, of course, we began to get offshoots. First one was in Cleveland, and I don't remember the next one, but anyway, they were started in Akron not too long after that, and have been continuing ever since. It is a great source of satisfaction to me to feel that I may have played some part in kicking in my 2 bits worth toward getting this thing started. I like to think that I have done that. Maybe I'm taking too much for granted, I don't know. But I feel that I was simply used as God's agent. I feel that I'm no different from any of you fellas or girls, except that I was a little more fortunate. That I got this message 13 and a half years ago, and some of you had to wait till a little later. In fact, I got a little peeved at our Heavenly Father because he was a little slow on the trigger, because I thought I would have been ready to receive it quite a while before he got around to present it. And that used to irritate me no end, but after all, maybe he knows better than I. But I felt sure that I would have been glad to have anything presented that would have been workable and produced the sobriety which I thought, at least, that I wanted so badly. I used to even doubt that at times. I would go to my good friend Henry and say, Henry, do you think that I want to stop drinking liquor? Henry, being very charitable soul, said, yes, Bob, I'm sure you want to stop. And I would say, well, I can't conceive of any living human who really wanted to do something as badly as I think I want to do it, who could be so total a failure. At any, I think I'm just one of these want-to guys. He said, no, Mom, I think you want to. We just haven't found just the way to work it yet.